Hey everyone, this is Metroid Pikmin, and I just wanted to go over my latest changes with my Deathspeaker Aggro deck. Kind of go a little bit in depth for it now that it is a primer on Curiosa. Most recent changes with this deck has mostly been of taking out minions and putting in um, more magic, more burn, kind of trimming things back. So I'm just going to go in. We're just going to talk about every single card, why it's in there, and what I think the best strategy for really playing this Deathspeaker aggro deck's going to be. So, as the name suggests, it is a Deathspeaker deck. Deathspeaker is a fantastic avatar. I think you have a lot of really good versatile with it. It is the most difficult to play in a mirror match, as you and your opponent have to both think, are the cards I can bring back worth dying now? Because if I don't cast it, my opponent will cast it. Um, But overall, Deathspeaker's ability, the fact that it is able to um, bring back a creature, retrigger any Genesis effect, or remove other people's um, creature minions from their cemetery is very strong, very good. Highland Falconer is a paired card with this deck. It is a pretty basic card I see in anyone running Airfire Deathspeaker. It is always going to grab Sacred Scarabs. In this deck, it has Falconer, has a couple other cards to grab, but it is not the point. Falconer is really good early game. If you're able to start with a Summoning Sphere, it's fine if you can't. If you can play Falconer on turn 2, you can probably hit with Scarabs on turn 4 if they don't die. At least hit the Avatar, because that's what you want with Scarabs. So Falconer, you play it, Genesis effect, it's automatically always going to grab a Scarab. That's either from your hand or from your deck. So it's okay if you have one in your hand. You don't have to worry about running out. Violent is another huge card in the deck. If you are familiar with this game or familiar with Violent, you will know how good of a card it is. And if you have played against Deathspeaker or played Deathspeaker, you realize how much of a game-winning card this is. Violent always does Genesis 2 damage to enemy units. This is a very good way of removing small things or just getting in, racking up damage. Um, I run 4 of in the deck, the max copy you can run. Essentially, this is 8 damage throughout the course of the game if you get all 4, then plus any extra damage that you can deal if it lives and you can attack with it. Violent gets massively improved with Summoning Sphere. Same thing with Falconer and Sacred Scarabs as a byproduct of that. I'll just jump over to Summoning Sphere now to talk about it because it is a good core card for all the minions for these first group of minions: the Falconer, the Imp, and the Scarabs, and also Grim Reaper. But Grim Reaper, I'll get into a little bit why that's in the deck, and I think the value of it. Summoning Sphere itself is just going to make all of this utility with Imp, Falconer, and Scarabs expedited because now you're directly hurting your opponent. They can't hide from the Violence 2 damage on the first row of the grid. And Sacred Scarabs is now always going to be landed right on your opponent's avatar as just a, hey, this is 4 damage, 3 or 4 damage if you attack it. There are ways around it, but that's basically what you're telling your opponent. Grim Reaper, I think it's a brand new fun card. Basically, it kills something and then removes that from the person's entire deck, hand and cemetery. I think it's very good against certain decks, and if anything, it's just a 2 mana removal, which I think is good in this format and in this game. Apprentice Wizard is a standard card you'll see in any Deathspeaker deck. It's just 3 mana, draw a card. I'll jump over to Grandmaster Wizard. It is identical to Apprentice Wizard in the sense that it's instead of 3 mana draw a card, it's 6 mana draw 3. Death Dealer is, I think, I had a debate with someone recently about is this card going to live up in future sets? And I think the answer is yes with Deathspeaker. Late game, it is a clear the board, which a one-time clear the board isn't the best. Late game, sometimes it is, depends on your opponent. your opponent is playing. But with Deathspeaker, it's a late game. I can clear the board twice, which basically means if they kill your death dealer, you basically have on any time on my turn, if I have 7 mana, the board's gone. So most people will actually want to keep Death Dealer alive, even though it is 4 damage that you will be taking, your opponent will be taking. It might be better than losing your whole board again. Phoenix is probably one of the newest addition to this deck, and it is just because of some rule changes until the rules maybe get changed again. Phoenix is going to be perfect against any matchup, any fire matchup. Phoenix is not, it's kind of a dead card if your opponent isn't playing fire, but because I'm playing fire, I have ways to hurt my own Phoenix or at least do fire damage to the Phoenix to buff it. So it's a good mid to late game card. But Phoenix does not have an answer if you were playing the mirror match of Deathspeaker Fire Air versus Deathspeaker Fire Air or Deathspeaker Fire than anything else. There is not a lot of answers for Phoenix in a mirror match with Deathspeaker. Most people that run Deathspeaker aren't running heavy earth, and if they are probably running some berries, and that's a fantastic answer to Phoenix, but berry is just a good answer to everything. So is its water counterpart drown. But if most people are playing a burn deck where you're running firebolts, don't do anything. Heat ray doesn't do anything. Minor explosion doesn't do anything. Infiltrate will do something. Poison Nova doesn't work. Major explosion doesn't work. Deserts buff it. It has a lot of really good utility, and I made the decision to, even though this is an aggro deck, having a creature that is an actual presence on the board, I think, is equally as important to having the fast damage that Imp, Scarabs, and all the magic provide. Magic the deck, I have toned back the number of firebolts. I used to run, at one point I ran 4, then I ran 3, and now we're running 2. I'm running 2 in place of Heat Ray. I am still debating if I'm going to keep 2 Heat Rays in the deck. I might cut it back to 1 and go back to 3 firebolts. As I personally like the 3 damage that firebolts provides. 3 damage for 2 mana, whereas Heat Ray is 2 damage for 3 mana. But Heat Ray does have a chance of doing 6-8 damage for 3, which is good. Lightning Bolt is a finisher card, although I've begun to play it more aggressively. If an avatar's alone, just play it. It's one of the biggest ways to play this deck I've learned is to go all in on aggro. Don't hold your burn spells, play them. If you can do damage to the person's avatar, play them. Because you're hoping that you're going to outpace them on their creatures. Now, sometimes you should hold them, and that is left to your situation and how you're playing. You might want to hold back a few. If they're playing large creatures, you want to remove them. But 2 for 1 is not always the best when you can just get someone from 20 to death's door in a matter of 5 turns by just consistently burning them every turn. So Lightning Bolt is a great card, and it is somewhat of an answer to the counterplay Phoenix. Chain Lightning. I'm running one of, as Chain Lightning does let you get around the board, does do a lot of things. It's fairly good late game. Early game, it's not the best. It's 2 damage for 2, but it can end up being a lot better than Heat Ray. You'll be putting more mana into it, but I think running run copy of Chain Lightning is a good play. Heat Ray, like I said, is a new addition to the aggro deck. It is a straight line like Firebolts, but Heat Ray is able to, if your opponent is grouping up a bunch of minions on different sites, it lets you get in and do damage. It's also a good finishing card, like Firebolts, as well, unlike Firebolts, I don't have to worry about my opponent having a wall of creatures between me and them, or me and the spellcaster, or their avatar and the spellcaster. So Heat Ray just kind of negates that effect. Minor Explosion has been added. The deck has a good number of spellcasters, and so just doing 3 for 3 can be really good. It's good cleanup, it's good damage just getting in more all in on that burn. Infiltrate is the big card. This deck is performing consistently better because of Infiltrate. You can draw this elite, it basically answers anything on the board. Opponent late game plays a big creature, take it. You're no longer taking that damage. You don't have to attack with it. You don't have to strike against a site. You don't have to do any of that. You can just remove something from the board. Because the unit you take gains stealth, it's very hard to answer. It's very hard to hurt. Early game, Infiltrate can also be good to take something out, and then you want to move that to one of their sites in a corner and then hit. With how dealing damage to sites don't take damage, with the current version of the rules, you don't deal damage to sites. So when you gain control of something with Infiltrate, you can keep striking your opponent's sites to deal damage. It will lose stealth, so that does mean it's easier to get removed or it can be engaged into a fight as a defender, but you have a better chance, but you can use it early to do a ton of damage instead of using it to fight an opponent's thing. I've been seeing good success with taking people's cards with Infiltrate, and then I have a Poison Nova in hand. So I just kind of hit them a few times. If there's a unit that maybe I want to hit their avatar, I move into Poison Nova range, hit their avatar, use Poison Nova, kill the minion I took. Has been very effective. Pact with the Devil was a card I'm surprised I didn't run. My match in season 2, round 1 of the top 16, I got to see the actual good uses of this card. It is draw 3 cards. 4 mana, draw 3, great. The lose half your life situationally comes up. Sometimes you can force your opponent into it, or you will be forced into it yourself. But this deck has 6 spellcasters. Actually, it has 7. River of Flame. River of Flame can trigger Pact with the Devil. So Pact with the Devil has 7 cards that it can sacrifice to benefit to let you draw 3, which is always going to be good. Also, Deathspeaker wants Thanes in the cemetery. So you don't mind sacking your Apprentice Wizard for 4 mana, because now on your next turn you can spend 3 to draw an additional card. This goes even better with Geistwood. If your Grandmaster Wizard is on your Geistwood, you draw Pact with the Devil. You just now drew 6 cards for 4, and then in your next turn you can spend another 6 mana, or on a future turn send 6 mana to draw 3 more cards. So you just got 9 cards for 10 mana is huge in Sorcery. Chaos Twister. So this is a card that I will argue is a skill-based card in paper, but in the league, in how we are playing on TTS, it is a dice roll. The league has specific rules with Chaos Twister, but what it comes down to is a 19 out of 20 chance of killing the card you pick. For the most part, it really comes out to like a 70 an 80% chance of killing, an 80 to 90% chance of killing your target with Chaos Twister on TTS. And that is huge. 4 mana, remove anything from the board, and then maybe a chance of doing a ton more damage and removing other threats has been good. Poison Nova, always a good card. I recommend running the max number, which is 3. As people play Earth often in this league format, you always want something to remove large creatures and then a huge range of it. Even removing a bunch of small creatures can still be useful with Poison Nova. And like I said, you have a lot of options to cast it. It's not just always going to be your avatar. It can be your Apprentice Wizard, your Grandmaster Wizard, and River of Flame. All those can cast Poison Nova. Major Explosions can be one of the last cards we really talk about. It is just another burn spell. Good amount of damage. It's a good finisher. It's a good death door enabler. It's all around good. You don't have to necessarily be near Your be near the avatar. If you have to cast from your avatar on the bottom board and your opponent is on the exact opposite side of you, so you're in position 3 and they're in position, I believe it's 18, um, you don't have to worry about it because you can still do 5 damage to them at a bare minimum. Summoning Sphere, like I talked about earlier, is a main key piece of the deck, as it enables Violent, Falconer, Sacred Scarabs, a little bit of Grim Reaper, if you wanted to like threaten a card where they have to engage with it. I've been cutting back on cores. The deck now only runs 2 cores instead of running all 4 and Stone. The cores I am choosing to run is Aquamarine and Onyx. The point of these is to cast my opponent. If my opponent's playing water, I maybe want to cast their water cards with Genesis effects. So I want at least a source of water, which is why you also will see a Lighthouse and Oasis in the sites. Onyx cores for the exact same reason. If my opponent's playing Earth and I want to play their Earth cards or remove Earth cards from their from their cemetery, as Earth does have pillars, and pillars they can play that site and banish all minions from cemeteries and gain health. So if you playing in a match where maybe it's open list and you see what they have pillars, if you get out Earth mana, you can just start. Instead of just ending your turn with open mana, you can just banish their minions so they aren't healing for as much. But sometimes your opponents will play Titan. And if they're playing Earth, you kill it. Now that you have Earth mana or Earth threshold because of your core and then maybe your sites, it's going to give you a better chance of playing those cards. Drums of Doom has kind of in the deck for the same reason that Poison Nova is, it's removal. It doesn't seem like it, but you play Drums of Doom on the 2 middle sites, and then now your Violimps kill everything. Your your wizards trade now, which is huge. Wizards usually don't trade, but now they do. It's just it allows your firebolts to kill 3 Thanes. If you can get drums in, it's very good. I only run 1 because 2's a little excessive. You will drop more, so if you feel like changing the deck, maybe you want to add a second drums. I personally don't. Sites. Because the deck is now more fire based, I have cut back on the number of air sites the deck runs. We're now running 1 of each tower, so towers always work on their Genesis, running both ruins, and then running windmill and lighthouse for the air cards. We're running 2 of each of the duels for the elements we are playing. Um, so yeah, running each of the elements that we can, or running 2 in this deck. So air sights pretty standard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 of our 20 sites are giving us air, which is gonna, for the most part, meet everything. I have ran into a few games where I didn't draw the air I wanted to, so I couldn't get Grandmaster Wizard on turn 6. I couldn't play. Hitting the 2 can be a little hard with air, so you might want to move some stuff around. Maybe add a 3rd Ruins. Um, that might be a good option. Maybe add 1 or 2 more towers. I'd probably add Ruin at that. Add a 3rd Ruins. Maybe take out a step or a windmill if you're not really wanting to. If you don't really care about playing your opponent's other cards, they're playing Earth or Water, and you're not really wanting to use the sideboard. Fire sites, we have Ruin, of course. Step just for the Earth element. Oasis for water cards. Water cards can be really good. They can be a good counterplay to people playing Earth, Air, as the berry effects won't work on your water sites. So that can be a good protection, but it can be dangerous if you're playing someone that's playing water. So caution. River of Flames, I've already talked about. Its main draw is it's a fire caster, and almost all the spells in in this deck are fire cards. So it's just going to let you cast all your fire spells from there. Vesuvius is just a good fire card. It can do 3 damage to Thanes. So that kills root spiders. So for the root spiders nearby, you can eliminate root spiders. Be very good. And then I'm running 4 deserts. Deserts do let you kill your wizards off your Geistwoods if you play them nearby. It also turns deserts lethal if you have drums. So deserts are just a good source to run. And finally, Geistwood. Geistwood is a unique site. If you can draw this, your deck goes off. It just lets all your wizards do more. You then can turn from your deck being solely focused on using all your burn spells to hurt your opponent to, maybe I want to draw 3 more cards. So I'll just kill my Thane again with my own with my magic. So that's how Geistwood works. That is a good overview of the cards. What I have for the primer at this point is deal damage quickly. So what you're going to want to do. Overall, the deck I think is really strong, really good. I've had good luck against high meta decks. I've had bad luck against meta decks. When it comes to the matchup, I think it really comes down to practice and getting comfortable with how the deck's playing. And as someone that's built this deck and has played it, I've realized then I have to get more comfortable with playing is using burn quickly. I don't have to hold it the whole game and like use it all the turn to get them to death's door, which is good. Healing is a massive weakness to this deck. When it comes to opening hands, I always toss scarabs. I always toss scarabs back. You don't need them. Don't have a scarab in your opening hand. It's not important. I don't think Grim Reaper is good in your opening hands. I don't think Phoenix is good in your opening hands. Grandmaster Wizard can be good in your opening hand. It can also be a trap card. So be careful. Death Dealer, not always important to have in your opening hand. Having a Violent in your opening hand is good. Falconer can be good in your opening hand. Apprentice Wizard's always good in your opening hands. I would Major Explosion, I would always put down on the bottom if it was in my opening hand. Almost all the magics I would keep, but if your hand's only magic, maybe think about mulliganing 1 or 2 of them. Summoning Sphere, if it's in your opening hand, you're off to the races. If you had Summoning Sphere and like 2 Firebolts, I would put the Firebolts on the bottom and hope you then draw a Violent, a Falconer, or a Sacred Scarab, because those and Spheres just going to put a threat on your opponent. Sideboard is pretty minor. It's mostly full of counterplay for best of 3s. So Disenchant, if people are playing heavy artifacts or heavy auras. Bury for a removal. The deck does have a good number of removal, but it's always going to have others. Root Spider for a little bit of control. Flood as a counterplay to Earth decks and as counterplay to Root Spider decks is the big reason of Flood or Bury deck. So any deck that's used burrowing, it's Flood as a counterplay too. Phoenix, I just like to run a second one if my opponent's playing heavy fire. It's good to have another one. Manticore is in here as kind of a good card. I could also see the argument for swapping my Phoenix and main board with Manticore. Manticore is gonna kill everything. Nothing can stop Manticore. It's airborne, it's lethal, and you can use it to attack, and if you didn't cast a fire spell this turn, you untap it. So it's very strong, it's very good. There is arguments to be made, and as I playtest, it might get swapped, and then Titan is in here for playing Earth, as Titan's really good. 6 damage to everything that it enters on, and then if it dies, you do 6 damage again. So that's a quick overview and run of the deck. I hope you guys give the deck a shot, play it, message me on Discord if you have more questions. I am almost always available. Have fun playing Sorcery, and I cannot wait to see you at the tables. Bye.